So my first question is quite simple. Why did you want to be here today at this event?
I was very keen on being here because I assumed that it would be a very different scene from what the equivalent conference would have been in New York, let alone, some other places on the West Coast. So, and I know, number two, I know that the French municipal government of Paris here is doing an amazing job in terms of deploying all kinds of sensors and enablement, electronic enablement. So I was really interested. I mean, you're way ahead from New York and say from a city like Buenos Aires, which is where I grew up.
So today you talked about smart cities and the way they could help the life of the citizens. What can you say about that?
In my own research, I'm particularly interested right now in filling blanks. And one of those blanks is how do we develop enablements, digital enablements, for both low-income neighborhoods and low-income workers at their workplace. The United States is extreme when it comes to low-income neighborhoods and people. There is very little for them. They are super exploited. They are the forgotten. They have no money to buy anything extra. So it is really an issue of a commitment. And it turns out that there are very simple applications that can make a lot of difference for these people. And one of my favorite is the emergency nanny, which is a group of people that one of the residents, a low-income resident, produces, and an app has those, which she or he can call on in the moment of crisis. And I think that's just step one. Step two, you begin to make solidarity tissue. You begin to make tissue in these very often destroyed low-income communities, that people feel, I matter actually to others, I matter to my neighbors, etc. So that is just one example.
Maybe one of the problems with the smart city is the fact that when there is something new, citizens are afraid, they are not confident. How can we avoid that?
Residents of a city are often a bit suspicious, if not afraid, of something new, something different. And given in the United States, very different from Paris, there is so much surveillance going on that when you bring in digital stuff into a community which has never really dealt with it, it's tough. Remember that in the United States, Wi-Fi is not for free. You have to pay for it. So many poor families we know in the United States, you know how they get connectivity? With dial-up telephone. Can you believe this? This belongs to the stone age of the digital. It's very slow. So they are truly at a disadvantage. And the distance between being in the digital zone and being out of it keeps growing. They are really out.
So my last question is about the data. Do you think that the fact that you give to the people access to their data, they can become not just consumers but actors?
One big hope is, of course, that insofar as there is so much data being gathered of people's practices, people's tastes, people's complaints, everything, that at some point this data circulates back to, and I always think of a bigger entity than an individual, but to a place, to a neighborhood, to a city, and can be revisited by those whom it is about. In other words, that the people can also use the data about themselves, rather than it disappearing in some fancy little firm that makes a lot of money of selling those data.